Hey, what's up, everybody? Video 44 coming at you with another video. All right, so of course, there's another play-in tournament game to consider. I've already done a video on the Miami Heat and the Chicago Bulls tonight in Chicago, which starts up in like 3 hours. But the one after that is the Dallas Mavericks and the Sacramento Kings in Sacramento. The loser of this one goes home. The winner of this one goes on to play the Memphis Grizzlies in Memphis. And so, for me, when I look at this, the first thing that comes to mind. The very first thing that comes to mind is how little success Anthony Davis has had against Domantas Sabonis historically. He's only beaten the man once, if I'm not mistaken. Right before he left the Lakers, we finally got him with Sabonis on the floor. We did win the season series against the Sacramento Kings, and I think most of them games took place before the Anthony Davis trade. In fact, I think all them games took place before Anthony Davis was traded. So I don't think Anthony played in all those games, if I'm not mistaken. But he did beat Sabonis this year, finally. That's the most important thing. You too, brother. I think, if anything, man, I just say it's a different situation because Sacramento has to deal with Lively and Gafford. And Gafford being a strong center, Lively being a strong center, thinking about Infinity Money Jones is also someone who's going to have a lot of length out there, be disturbing the piece. It's not just as simple as AD versus Sabonis. A good portion of the time, Jason Kidd may not even need to put AD on Sabonis. So I think it's an entirely different dynamic. With the Lakers, we needed AD to check him, and he was able to overpower AD with his strength and his overall better conditioning. I don't think that that's even going to be necessary in Dallas' situation. Totally different team. I think Dallas has a different problem that we didn't have, and that's who is getting the ball to AD. Without Kyrie Irving out there, they don't have a point guard that they can really count on outside of Spencer Dinwiddie, who, I like Dinwiddie as a playmaker, but maybe not as a decision maker in situations all the time. Sometimes he can have really good games, sometimes he can have really bad games, and that inconsistency makes you want to opt out of using him at times. And so I don't know how much they're going to be willing to use him tonight, but if they are not willing to use him tonight, I'm concerned about Anthony Davis getting enough touches to be as potent in the offense. It's probably going to be necessary to overcome a Sacramento Kings team that's going to score a lot of points on most nights. Talking about DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine. Now, Malik Monk will not be available tonight, but their guard position is pretty strong. You got to deal with Keon Ellis all night, who's going to bring a lot on the defensive end. So it's not like you're going to be having a night off just because Zach ain't out there. They got plenty of guard play, plenty of ball handlers, plenty of guys coming at you looking to attack and score repeatedly. Can the Dallas Mavericks find enough scoring on the road in that very, very hostile arena to get them the victory and keep their season alive? And so that's going to really be the story there. I just think that now you start finding out if Anthony Davis is really able to lead this basketball club to the victories that they hoped he would be able to when they made this trade. He's been back now for a week or so. Even though I don't think he played great against the Lakers, he did come back the very next game, have a triple-double with 7 blocks. So is that the Anthony Davis that Dallas can count on the road tonight? With Sabonis on the floor, there are some Sabonis demons down there. And to be honest with you, the Dallas Mavericks have not won any games against the Sacramento Kings this year. Now, there's an asterisk next to those 3 games because, of course, the Luka injuries were there and then followed by the Luka trade. So a good portion of the time, if not every bit of that, was without Dallas having what it is that they need to really compete. But that's still the problem. Dallas still is missing some guys tonight. But they do have Anthony Davis in place. They do have Lively. Gafford should be available tonight. The emergence of a player on the Dallas Mavericks I think is really interesting is Brandon Williams. He's really made a name for himself over the last couple of weeks. And I wonder if he's going to kind of make a name for himself in this play-in tournament tonight. He's a player to circle. If he gets the minutes, I think he could be a really nice scorer for them. So they're going to need production from him. My guy Max Christie had 17 points in the last game, along with Brandon Williams off the bench for the Dallas Mavericks. That's going to be important production off of the Mavericks bench tonight. They're going to need to find that. Also, Valanciunas, in the non-Sabonis minutes, can Sacramento find positive production going up against the waves of length that's going to be coming at them? that's going to be interesting to me in regards to this matchup too. Can Valanciunas have another 10 of 11 game for which he had last time he was on the basketball floor, off the bench, only missed one shot in 11 attempts? That is production that Sacramento, I believe, is going to need tonight. I don't think he can have that type of game, but he's going to need to be efficient, and he's going to need to be a plus when he's out there against those very, very talented and explosive centers. So that's really going to be the story there. I think matchups are really tricky, but I think the flow of the offense on the Sacramento side just may be a little too much for the Dallas Mavericks to keep up with, given the fact that AD is not prone to demand the basketball repeatedly to get easy buckets. Now you're relying upon jump shooters and playmakers that are not overly talented, role players on the road in a one-game situation, going up against killers like DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine. I just think this really favors the Sacramento Kings. It really does. Now, if the Dallas Mavericks had a playmaker of a certain caliber, somebody who could really repeatedly get the ball to Anthony Davis, repeatedly get the ball to different scorers, I would feel great. You know, Klay Thompson is a player who's all bets are off if he's hitting shots. Y'all know what it is with Klay. But the problem is where he's at this point in his career, I just can't necessarily fear him in any way. I just don't fear him. You know, and that's could be dangerous for the Sacramento Kings if they don't fear him and he starts getting hot. But that's just something you keep in the back of your mind. You're not necessarily scheming against him right now, but it's always a factor. It's always a high ceiling factor with the Dallas Mavericks because of the presence of the great Klay Thompson. So that's a factor. If he can go off for 25, 30 points on an efficient night, I think that could really help on the road, especially with what it is they're relying upon. It would be great if they could tap into him tonight for their sake. There's a few players that come to mind, the Dallas Mavericks, that also need to be mentioned. PJ Washington is a huge player to deal with as well in that center forward for rotation. It really does go on forever with the length of the Dallas Mavericks. Problem is, in order to accompany length properly, you need playmakers, and that's what they didn't take into account when they put this together. You can have all the centers in the world with all the length in the world. Who the hell is getting these guys the ball? That's the question. You just got a bunch of length out there for no damn reason. That's really what it comes down to. So until they go ahead and get themselves a Josh Giddey, Lonzo Ball type dude, or two or three of them, to really make this thing go, they need playmakers. TJ McConnell, anybody. They don't even have to be that great of a player. They just need guys who are good at getting other people the ball. If they had a good handful of those type of guards, I think the Dallas Mavericks would be as good as they think they want to be. But that they don't have those people, that's a real problem. A really real problem. And so that's my problem with the Dallas Mavericks. I think the team construction idea was lacking something very, very important. And that was the understanding that these centers and these power forwards are only activated by the ball movement that gets them involved. And so given the fact that none of them really look for each other, I think Anthony Davis is probably the best playmaker of all of those people. You need him to score. You don't need him being a passer like that at all. And even if you do ask him to be a passer like that, he tends to turn the ball over when pressure comes. Now, Sacramento's not the greatest defensive team by any stretch of the imagination. And without Malik Monk, I think it takes away from some of the steal factors, even though Keon Ellis is a hell of a defensive player at times. He can steal the ball and get out of the open court. But DeMar DeRozan, is he going to be scrappy like that tonight? Zach LaVine has been said to be a pretty good defender at times. I really haven't seen too much of that myself, so I just cry ignorant. But like the scrappiness of those wings taking the ball from the Dallas Mavericks, I think can go a long way in securing this basketball game for the Sacramento Kings. I think the boards obviously favoring the Dallas Mavericks, although Sabonis can go for 20 boards on a good night. And Valanciunas can go for 10 himself or more. But I do think that the boards and the second chance points and things like that goes to Dallas. The quality possessions. Am I trusting Dallas Mavericks to hit shots? You know, Marshall, I believe his name is, I can't think of his first name right now for whatever reason, but he's been balling out. I believe it's Marshall. Is he going to be available to score for the Mavericks tonight? Because when he scores a lot, they're a different basketball club, and he's been showing that he's been shooting through what people thought his ceiling would be in the role that's been given with the absence of so many different players on that Dallas Mavericks team. Can he step into his star bag? Because he's more than capable at this point, proven to be able to get double-digit boards, 25 points, make 7 assists. If he's having a fantastic night, that's already been proven this year. So can they count on him? If his name is Marshall, forgive me, it's just not coming to mind. Najee Marshall, I believe it is. Can they count on him to show up in a big way with his season on the line? Because while the Dallas Mavericks were down everybody and nobody wanted to watch the Mavericks, he was having some fantastic opportunities to get in rhythm in ways that he was never able to get in New Orleans. And so at this point, I look at him as a different caliber player than what it was that I thought when they acquired him. And so Najee Marshall is extremely important in keeping the Dallas Mavericks season alive. Extremely important. They need him to play big tonight. And P.J. Washington too. You know, P.J. Washington tends to have nights at times where he can fill up the box score. 15 rebounds, a block, a steal, 3 assists, 22 points. If they can get that type of night out of him, that would go a long way in helping the Dallas Mavericks as well, especially if Anthony Davis doesn't have it. But the problem is I think that the presence of so many centers eats away at what he can do. He's probably a better player when he has more minutes than what it is that they're asking him to play. That's the problem with PJ. I think PJ is a very good player. I just think he's one of the guys that's oversaturated by all of the length that they have. All of the length that they have. There's just too many players playing that same damn position over and over and over and over and over again. You can only have but so many of those players on the floor at once. That's another reason why I don't understand the team construction there. You know, and Kai Jones is, I would say, starting to show that he's ready to break out with a bigger role. That's the last team he needs to be on at this point. The way that he's been playing lately, he don't need to be in a log jam with Anthony Davis, PJ, Gafford, Lively. That's a lot of people who are eating it away at his minutes and his rebounds and all that other stuff that he could be doing. So PJ stretching the floor is probably most important. If he could just hit his corner three, be aggressive, get some second chance points where necessary, I think he's a big player tonight. Derek Lively, again, another player out saturated by so much of the same thing over and over again. It's rare when you see a team that has so many centers. And while I think Anthony Davis would be best to kind of be in a situation like that so that he's not pressured to bang around with so many different bigs and not pressured to stay healthy per se, he could take time off to heal and rest and not be relied upon to come back. So I think this is a good situation for him. But it's not a good situation for all these other young guys in that rotation at that position to be oversaturated with the same player they are and have zero to no playmakers finding them and getting their offense going. So I just, at this point, even if they had Kyrie Irving, if I'm being honest with you, I hate the team construction. I hate it. I hate it. I just think that you have too much of one thing and not enough of what makes that thing go. And I don't believe Sacramento has that problem. I do not believe Sacramento has that problem. Sacramento has other problems defensively, in my opinion. Sacramento may have a too many Chiefs problem with Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan, who didn't particularly mess all that great in Chicago after the first year where they really looked good. And then the guys are in and out of the lineup. I think it's a different dynamic with them two in this place, Sacramento, but I still don't love it. I would rather them both not be on the same team. But nevertheless, and I'm sure they feel the same way, but this is how the cookie crumble for those two players. They end up in the same spot, and I guess Sacramento liked the vision of having those two out there. DeMar DeRozan is still more than capable of doing big things, especially in a big game. He's a clutch player. He's not going to shoot too many threes, but he's a better three-point shooter than I think people give him credit for. He still can get off the floor. He's not what he used to be in that way, but he's still more than capable of getting out in the open court and being very dynamic, finishing extremely well. Mid-range, he's still one of the best in the game. So as far as I can tell, this is a night where he's going to attempt probably 20 shots. And I think that could be to the betterment of the Sacramento Kings and to the detriment of the Sacramento Kings, depending on how the shot is falling and how other people would otherwise need to get going. If everybody else is cold and he has it going, then that's not a problem. But if he's taking shots away from everybody else, it could tend to be a situation that makes the Sacramento Kings a bit predictable for my liking. With Malik Monk not out there, it may be more incumbent upon him to be aggressive, and that could potentially swing things, in my opinion. Zach LaVine, he's such a dynamic open court player, such a dynamic three-point streaky guy. He can string together 7 threes in one night, no problem. One of the greatest athletes out there. Healthy now, has a postseason opportunity. It's a big game for him. You know, I've accused him of not showing up in big games, play-in tournament games, specifically 2 years ago with the Chicago Bulls. I think it was against the Miami Heat, and he didn't do nothing. He came out, had one of the worst games of the season. They ended up going home. This is an opportunity for him to rectify that or double down on that being who he is, a guy that doesn't show up in big games. He needs to show up tonight for the Sacramento Kings. He needs, in my opinion, to be, if not the reason they win, one of the reasons they win. But his decision-making and his defensive intensity and focus, I think, is very important tonight. Scoring the ball is never going to be a problem for him. But can he offset the defense that's going to be thrown at him by playing some of his own? Because I do believe that guys like Max Christie, Brandon Williams, Klay Thompson to a lesser extent, the Spencer Dinwiddie, those guys are plus defenders. To my knowledge, they are. And will play some defense against him tonight to the best of their ability. Can he slow them down with his intensity is a question I have. Can Keon Ellis be a factor tonight on both sides of the floor? Can he slow down a Spencer Dinwiddie if he gets going? So these are the things that come to mind. Najee Marshall, can they have somebody stop him if he is stepping into his big bag, so to speak? Is Jaden Hardy available? I'm not really sure if Jaden Hardy's available, but he is a player I think could also benefit greatly from having a bit more opportunities. Unfortunately, I think he was hurt when a lot of what was going on was happening to create opportunities for him. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to capitalize on those because I think he was also hurt. So that's going to be a question for me. Is Jaden Hardy going to be a factor in any way if given opportunities? I think he has the ability to be a factor tonight. So, yeah, these are just things, you know, Sacramento, the building is theirs. That's what it really comes down to. The building is Sacramento's. So my question is, can Sacramento capitalize on the crowd that's usually very, very rabid in situations like this, hungry to make the playoffs? They won in the play-in tournament against Sacramento last year, if I'm not mistaken, in the same type of situation. So they should have confidence that they can do it again, even though this is a new Sacramento King team. Obviously, Mike Brown is gone. Doug Christie is in place. They've had some pretty good stuff go on with Doug Christie for the most part, got them this far. Can they capitalize on that home court and light the beam tonight against a Dallas Mavericks team that has so much length, but really is reeling and spiraling in the wrong direction? As an organization, they're just spiraling in the wrong direction as an organization. And so for me, I just think that it could be a situation where Dallas is distracted as well based on how they went about the press conference that they had yesterday talking about the Luka Doncic trade. I do think that could have been a bit of a distraction for their team. But the presence of guys like Klay Thompson, their coach, Jason Kidd, Anthony Davis, I would imagine those players try to reel it in for everybody else. Some of the young guys who may be a little distracted. I would expect those vets with the experience that they have, championship experience that should give them what they need to be a bit more focused than maybe you would expect this group to be. So I do think it's a determining factor, but some of those personalities in that locker room should not be rattled by these circumstances. So I think that bit of calm from those three gentlemen, championship experience from those three Hall of Famers, should really help that group. Help them with the Max Christies and Derek Lively's and guys who kind of haven't been around the way too much. And that is a determining factor as well. There's a championship element on the Dallas Mavericks side that in a one-game situation, you would be wise to consider when talking about this matchup. Because on the Sacramento Kings side, I don't see that. DeMar hasn't won anything. Zach hasn't won anything. Sabonis hasn't won anything. You know, Doug Christie's been through big stuff, obviously, but he's an interim coach, fresh rookie coach, basically. I think that Dallas Mavericks experience needs to be in this equation as something that could be a determining factor to the poise of a basketball team. And that could, in some situations, outweigh home court advantage in a one-game situation. But the one thing that I look at and I can't shake off is just how dynamic DeMar DeRozan is potentially going to be tonight. That is something that's really bothering me. Him having home court advantage, if I'm a Dallas Maverick fan, that is. Him having home court advantage. And the demon of Anthony Davis versus Sabonis also hurts my Dallas confidence. Because at the end of the day, you don't fluke your way into that type of discrepancy, win versus loss from one player to the next. One guy has to be doing things the right way. The other guy has to have it in his head that he can't beat a guy. And although I think Anthony Davis did overcome that demon this year, it's a hell of a thing for him to have to see this particular player with his season on the line. And just the same, if you're Sabonis, you got to feel fantastic going into this game, knowing that the guy you keep beating that's historically better than you is going to have to come into your building and try to defeat you. I think that's a confidence swing for two very, very talented players. Sabonis need not have us confidence swing upwards of in that way in this type of situation. So I'm going to tell you the truth. Right now, I'm going to say the Sacramento Kings are going to win this game at home. I expect a triple-double out of Sabonis. If he don't get in foul trouble, anything can happen. But I expect Sabonis to really be the determining factor out there. Anthony Davis can always blow a game up by being absolutely dynamic. But the problem is, I know that the ingredient that gets him going is not on that basketball floor. I believe that he's probably not checked all the way in with the Dallas Mavericks like that. I don't think he wants to be a Maverick. I think he's probably secretly very hurt that the Lakers are going to move on into the playoffs. He wants to be a part of what we got going on right now. And that's just me paying attention to Anthony Davis for the last 6 years. The last place he wanted to be is in Dallas post-Luka with this circumstance going on, playing for that organization. I know better. I absolutely know better. I'm sure that if he were a free agent, he would not resign there. Unless they offered him a dynamic amount of money and probably brought all types of stuff to him that he wants. Otherwise, I don't think he's even checked in with that organization. I don't know that that's a determining factor for whether or not he would want his season to end, but given the fact that he's coming back from a growing injury that was rather serious, going up against a guy who's been beating the hell out of him over and over again, I'm just not inclined to pick the team he's on, especially without Kyrie Irving. So that's why I'm going with the Sacramento Kings tonight. I just think the Sacramento Kings are a bit better put together. I do think them missing Malik Monk could be a factor, but not in a major way, because I'm always of the mindset that Keon Ellis should be getting more minutes rather than less any damn way. So this could be not an addition by subtraction, in my opinion, but it brings forth a player who should probably be in that position any damn way. And so that's what I'm looking at there. There are other factors in this Sacramento matchup. I don't love the Sacramento Kings' depth, to be honest with you. I think that they've depleted some of that depth to a degree. I do like the acquisition of Jake LaRavia, though. He has a potential of being somebody that can hurt the Dallas Mavericks tonight off the bench. But there is a depth factor that, believe it or not, I think weighs very heavily in a series, but maybe not a one-game situation, especially when the team has the building to their advantage. Hey, friend, what's up? What's up? What's going on, buddy? Hey. Hey, how are you? Hey. So that's really what comes to mind for me. I think that the Dallas Mavericks, unfortunately, are at a disadvantage. I done woke the whole neighborhood right now. Hey, what's up, puppies? Hey. Y'all want to be on camera? What's up? You messing up my video. You know that, right? Anyway, so as we want to just kind of sum this conversation up, I think that the Dallas Mavericks are a little bit of a disadvantage because they don't have home court, because I think the mental edge is their way, because the distraction edge is against them. I think some of the Dallas Mavericks team is probably just ready to end the season because they know that without Kyrie Irving and without that playmaker that can get all of them the ball, the way this team is currently constructed, they probably can't reach their ceiling and ultimately will just disappoint a fan base that probably just wants this season to end just in general. I would not be surprised, though I don't have a feel for this, I wouldn't be surprised if the Dallas Mavericks are about ready for their season to end. Check this thing all the way out. And so I think that's probably what's going to happen tonight. I don't see them moving on to the next play-in tournament game. I think everybody in that situation could use a nice long offseason to heal, to get their bearings, get some distance between that Luka Doncic trade. Let whatever going to happen with the Lakers happen so they could live with it. If the Lakers go home and win a championship, which I hope as a fan. But I think the players and the fans and everybody could use a nice, comfortable off season where they get a guy like Kyrie Irving back hopefully at the beginning of next season, although I think that might be doubtful given the nature of the injury and his age. He might not be back till maybe All-Star break, but that's just me guessing. I don't really know. But they could use an influx of playmaking. They could use an influx of wing help. And I don't know that I trust their front office to do anything right, to be honest with you, based on the most obvious of things going on with the Dallas Mavericks. So that's really where I'm at with that. I just think Sacramento's in a much better place, even though the coaching edge definitely, in my opinion, goes to Dallas with Jason Kidd in place. I still think Sacramento is probably just a little more equipped right now for a one-game situation. But that Sacramento bench does concern me. That Sacramento bench does not look good right now to me. So neither one of these teams are really that great, and that's how you weigh it. Do you understand that even though one team may not necessarily be without flaws, the other team has plenty of flaws as well. And so it's not like they're going up against world beaters to where those weaknesses are not going to be offset by other glaring weaknesses. And that's the nature of this play-in tournament. So that's where I'm at, man. I think Sacramento wins the game tonight at home. The beam will be lit, in my opinion. I don't have a massive amount of confidence, especially going up against Anthony Davis. I know who he is and what he can do, but I also know who he is and what he cannot do. And without that playmaker, not only is he at a disadvantage, but some of those other wings some of those other stilts, lengthy center type dudes are also at a disadvantage. So playmaking is the determining factor for why the Dallas Mavericks, in my opinion, are not going to win this basketball game. I just don't see it. Now, if Spencer Dinwiddie has a huge game, he's more than capable. This could be a different type of situation. If, Zach LaVine goes off, how you doing, man? That could be a different situation. Zach LaVine go for 50, hey, all bets off, bro. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's going to require that tonight for Sacramento to go off and win this basketball game at home. I don't think so. I got Sac winning this game. I don't have a feel for what I expect the differential to be or nothing like that. I'm just going to say Sac wins. BDL 44. I thank y'all for watching. Wow.